Hello, welcome to ITV News Meridian.
Tonight's headlines in the southeast. Protesters take a stand outside Southern Water's head office in Sussex, and they say dumping untreated sewage into the sea must stop.
This isn't something we can do in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. We need to start now. Let's start investing in infrastructure and making water safe for everybody.
Almost 1,200 migrants crossed the Channel in small boats yesterday, a new record. The government says again it will stop a cruel and dangerous trade.
Also tonight, how climate change is affecting the world of sport and the call for action as more and more matches are lost to extreme weather.
And why Rochester Cathedral is getting into the spirit with its own brand of gin. Good evening to you. Protesters gathered outside Southern Water's head office in Worthing today, demanding action against water companies who release high amounts of untreated sewage into our rivers and the sea.
This week, MPs voted to introduce legal restrictions on the practice, which is permitted at times of extreme weather to prevent flooding. Andy Dickinson has our report.
All the sewage.
Protesters in full voice, some with musical accompaniments, all sickened, they say, by Southern Water and unconvinced that new legislation will make the company clean up its act.
We've got members here from Unite Community today that have travelled from Hastings, from Brighton, from Crawley, from Portsmouth, from Southampton, from Havant. We've come from all around, even from the southwest.
To say it's been a difficult year for Southern Water is perhaps an understatement after record fines and dozens of our beaches in the region being affected by their sewage spills. They may insist things are getting better, but people here certainly disagree.
Recently, I think it was only this week, there's some nice sounds coming out of there, but we need action and we need it now. This isn't something we can do in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. We need to start now. So rather than keep accepting big fines for dumping waste, let's start investing in infrastructure and making water safe for everybody.
I mean, I've been fishing around the Southwick area for literally 60 years, and now it's getting really, really disgusting again. And it's all down to the fact that Southern Water are prioritising giving money to shareholders and bosses in bonuses, rather than doing what they should be doing, which is keeping the seas clean.
My understanding is that up until this point, it's been cheaper for them to pay the fines and then continue reaping profits to give to their shareholders than to actually invest, which is what we deserve as a country. And because they're a monopoly, there's no competitors to encourage them to behave in the right way. We can't do anything as consumers. We can't choose a different water company. We have no power. The government needs to step in, and Southern Water needs to do their basic duty.
We welcome the opportunity to talk to people who share our concern about the environment. We're making very big investments. We've got £1.5 billion being invested to reduce pollutions by 80% by 2025. And just this week, our CEO Ian has announced the creation of a task force. We believe we can reduce storm overflows by 80% by 2030.
The difficulties and large sums needed to renew our sewage infrastructure now being debated not just by water companies and politicians, but increasingly the public, with more protests expected to follow. Andy Dickinson, ITV News.
And you can find more on today's top stories on our website. Go to itv.com/Meridian.
Police are looking for ram raiders who used a digger to try to steal a cash machine in Canterbury. It was driven into the front of a shop on St Martin's Hill just after 2:30 this morning. The cash machine was recovered further down the road. A 29-year-old man has been arrested on suspicion of burglary.
The Kent MP, who said the footballer Marcus Rashford was playing politics and said he should stick to his game, has come under fire after it was revealed she has a second job. Natalie Elphick criticised the Manchester United player last summer after he missed a penalty in the Euro finals. Now it's been revealed that the Dover MP is paid £36,000 a year from her role with the New Homes Quality Board on top of her MP salary. Mrs Elphick did not respond to our request for comment.
The Home Office has confirmed that more than 1,000 migrants crossed the Channel in small boats yesterday, a new daily record.
And it's feared that 3 people attempting the journey in kayaks got into difficulties and have been lost off the French coast. In our newsroom, Nikki Woodcock.
Yes, at least 1,185 people reached the south coast yesterday. On last night's programme, we showed pictures of dozens of migrants being helped ashore in Sussex yesterday. Their boats had taken advantage of calm seas and mild weather, but were pushed westwards to Hastings by the tides. Among the group here were pregnant women, young children and even babies. They were given food and blankets by the local authorities and taken to Dover for processing. They will then be relocated elsewhere across the UK while their claims for asylum are dealt with. Border Force officials continue to help migrants to safety well after dark due to concerns for their safety. Meanwhile, in French waters, 3 people are feared lost at sea after 2 kayaks were found drifting off the coast of Calais. And over the last few weeks, others have also been reported missing during the crossing. 2 people have been confirmed to have died. A migrant charity told us the situation is desperate.
I know it's very dramatic, 1,000 people, and we shouldn't have 1,000 people risking their lives doing that, but this is the only route open to them to get here to make their asylum claims. These numbers are perfectly manageable, but clearly it's not an acceptable position to have desperate people risking their lives in this way.
And the government's response is almost identical to the last time we reported on this. It says the number of crossings is unacceptable and the British public have had enough of seeing people die in the Channel while criminal gangs profit from their misery. Here's the man appointed to tackle the crisis.
Well, this is a really complex problem. It's important we work as an international law enforcement community to make interventions across the whole of the migrant route so we can break that business model.
Well, Amnesty International told us the asylum claims over the last few years have remained relatively low despite the high number of small boat crossings.
Nikki Woodcock in our newsroom, thank you very much.
The owners of a dog which was stolen from the front seat of a van in Kent are urging the thieves to do the right thing and hand him back. 2-year-old Bjorn was snatched from the vehicle while it was parked outside Blue Water Shopping Centre at the weekend.
He's a rare Russian Belonka and suffers from various health conditions, raising fears about his chances of survival. Kit Bradshaw has more.
Little Bjorn stole his owners' hearts the first time they saw him.
I would usually hold him and he'd be in my arms, literally, like this much.
And like a baby. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's what he's like.
They drove across Europe to pick him up from Sweden. Now they fear they'll never see him again.
As soon as we see his little face, we just get so happy. And then I go to my side, or the passenger side, and the whole window is broken. And I just realise what's happened.
They'd left the 2-year-old pet in the front seat of their van in the car park at Blue Water Shopping Centre last Saturday. They were gone for just an hour.
This is where the thieves have tried to cut into the van.
Despite their best efforts, the criminals didn't manage to get to the work tools stored in the back. What they did take was a laptop, handbag and rare breed of dog. He's a Russian Belonka and often has difficulty breathing in stressful situations, raising fears about his current health.
We had to hand feed him, and that's why we're so worried that he wouldn't be eating or drinking even.
His health will quickly decline and he won't be worth money to anyone, so...
He's worth everything to us and we just want him back.
A substantial reward is being offered for Bjorn's safe return, and police are appealing for information. For now, the little dog has left a very big hole in this family's life. Kit Bradshaw, ITV News, Grays.
Well, let's hope he is returned and safely and quickly. Well, the ITV Evening News Hour continues with the national and international news at 6:30. To London now for a preview. Here's Mary Nightingale.
Coming up in the programme, the Channel migrant crisis escalates. Record numbers of people continue to land on Britain's coast. I'll have the latest. Judges refuse to increase the sentence of a man jailed for choking a woman to death during sex. Plus,
I only knew you for a while.
Row over the John Lewis Christmas ad. And will Britney finally find freedom today? Join me for those stories and more at 6:30.
We will, Mary. Thank you very much indeed. Now, the COP26 climate conference in Glasgow had been due to end today, but every indication is it'll run into the weekend, possibly finishing on Sunday.
As long as the nations and scientists are talking, it's a good sign. The UN Climate Summit has been billed as the last chance saloon in terms of tackling climate change. More than 200 world leaders want to cut greenhouse gas emissions and slow down global warming. Here's a roundup of the draft proposals.
After almost 2 weeks of talks and negotiations, the deadline for COP26 to end was 6 o'clock this evening. 200 countries around the world are being asked to sign a new agreement to limit climate change. The latest draft of that agreement was released this morning. It states that the world's climate has already heated up by 1.1 degrees Celsius, and it talks of needing more ambition and action to deal with global warming. On carbon emissions, not enough has been done, it says, to reduce them. It asks countries to return next year with new plans to further reduce emissions by 2030. While it does ask for coal use to be phased out more quickly, it stops short of calling for a complete end to the use of fossil fuels, or money being spent on subsidising them. It says that the amount of money currently being spent on climate action isn't enough, and asks countries to provide more. It also calls for stronger partnerships between the most developed and least developed countries. And to make sure women aren't disproportionately affected by climate change, they're asked to promote gender equality and the empowerment of women.
But what will be the legacy of the summit, and will it inspire us all to do more to reduce the impact we have on the world? Derek Johnson has more.
Emma and Matthew James have just moved into this 20-year-old house with their 2 children. It's great, but it needs a lot of work. The couple have listened to the issues outlined in COP26, and more than ever, they want the project to be energy efficient and sustainable. A key task is replacing the drafty metal windows.
If you're going to look at what's eco-friendly, it's where they're produced and then how much the carbon footprint is from where they're produced in one country somewhere else and then brought here.
The heating system also needs an overhaul. This is an oil-fired boiler that we have here.
Yes.
What are the problems?
It's not very eco-friendly. It's very noisy. We'd like to replace it with an air pump system that the government are backing at the moment as being more eco-friendly.
That's likely to be expensive?
Yes, it is, yes. Very expensive.
In fact, insulating the entire home will be costly, but the family says it's having to work really hard to find cheap options that are green as well.
We have a lot to do on this property, and you know, we don't want to get to a point where we put ourselves under financial pressure just to be the best eco-friendly we could be.
The Gibson family have lived in their home for a lot longer. For Jill, a long-time environmental campaigner, it's about sustainable shopping without busting the budget. Everything from household goods to clothes and accessories.
So this is a bag that one of my best friends bought me for my birthday this year, and it's actually made from 20 recycled plastic bottles. This is actually my favourite handbag. I do love it. It's made entirely from ring pulls, and it's such a great talking point. People often comment on it in shops. This is my purse, and actually it used to be a fire hose.
It's about being as green as you can be. I mean, it's not always easy, is it, for families to try and do the right thing all the time?
No, it is quite difficult, but you can, little bits now and again really do help. The easy one is just switching the lights off.
It's also about the next generation listening and responding.
Like if they're concentrating on it, then it might provoke us to start thinking, we might need to do something about this is our lives.
Do you think people will respond as individuals and as families to what they've heard at COP26?
Oh, I certainly hope so. I think we can all do our bit. I don't think anybody's asking you to do it perfectly or never have a holiday again. And every time we buy something, we're making some kind of choice. So if we want more sustainable products, if we want less plastic, etc. We need to show the supermarket bosses, we need to show the producers that those are the kinds of things we want to buy, and they will respond, because supply and demand will always work that way.
From insulating your home to shopping with a conscience, we can do our bit to save the planet, while urging our governments to do the really big stuff. Derek Johnson, ITV News.
Well, let's cross now then to our reporter James Webster from the conference in Glasgow. So, James, how successful has COP26 actually been?
Well, here we are on the final day, and so far no big fanfare, no big announcement, and you felt the pressure of the negotiations still taking place here through the day. They're happening in the rooms behind the walls that you can see behind me here, where negotiators are still going through the draft agreement line by line, word by word, trying to find something which up to 200 countries can agree on. And while they've been doing that, there was actually a demonstration here inside the venue earlier today. Some delegates marching through the corridors demanding climate action. That's the first time during the conference that we've seen that inside the conference centre. We now know that we're expecting talks to go on into the weekend, and there is a feeling that the longer those talks go on, the more watered down any deal is likely to become. I think when we do get a deal, if we get a deal, it will be something that is a big step forward, but whether it is enough to secure limiting climate change to just 1.5 degrees is now under serious question.
Now, time spent in one of Britain's oldest cathedrals. You'd expect incense, perhaps, prayer certainly, music and candles too.
You might expect the Father, Son and Holy Spirit too, but as Joe Caution now reports, the clergy at Rochester have a different sort of spirit in mind, for some of their visitors at least.
A whole new meaning to the Holy Spirit, a special edition gin launched by Rochester Cathedral. Inspired by its 1400-year history, it's been christened 604, the year the place of worship opened.
1400 odd years ago, when the cathedral opened, would they have been drinking gin?
No, they wouldn't have been drinking gin, but they would have been drinking a lot of wine.
Why go for gin instead of wine? That's the typical drink.
Well, we haven't got the wine yet, so it takes a lot more. And we were aware that some other cathedrals had produced the gin, and we thought, well, we ought to do this. But it also promotes Rochester. You know, it promotes local business. It's great.
To create it, they needed the help of the Copper Rivet Distillery in Chatham.
Because it's a bespoke gin, we wanted to put botanicals in there that they would be very happy with, and to make a different flavour to other gins that are in the market.
Now, the bottle features a rather inquisitive-looking monk on the label, and eagle-eyed visitors here may recognise him. That's because he features quite prominently on their fresco, the first of its kind in an English cathedral for 800 years.
Only 240 bottles have been made, and a price tag of £40 may not be the perfect tonic. But all of the profits will go towards maintenance work at the cathedral.
We don't get any particular funding from anywhere from government. We are a cathedral that's open free of charge, and that's how we want it to remain. So have a 604, raise your glass, and you're helping the cathedral.
To quote from chapter 5, verse 18 in the Bible, "Be not drunk with wine wherein excess, but be filled with the Spirit." Taken out of context, of course, but a fitting one for the Norman Temple's new tipple. Joe Caution, ITV News, Rochester.
I'd drink to that.
Oh, I love
it's
it.
It's a good cause, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a good cause, and I like gin anyway. But while we're all still stone cold sober, let's take a look at the weather. Ollie Green.
Hello, good evening. We have had mild air once again with us for today, but increasingly into the coming days we're going to see our temperatures starting to drop away. A few showers for this weekend, varying amounts of cloud. I think some brightness to be had, probably more so the further west you are. Further east we tend to find more cloud, and temperatures are tending to take a bit of a tumble. So low pressure dominating for today, that has been in charge, but increasingly higher pressure is taking over. But we have got more of an easterly drift of the winds picking up, and that means some chillier air heads our way. And as I say, it does bring a fair bit of cloud in as well, so the further east you are, the more of that cloud you do tend to see, and obviously where you get the cloud, a greater chance of some showers too. As we head through this evening and tonight, some showery outbreaks of rain around, the wind's still quite strong. All of those things tend to ease down, so it gets drier, the winds ease lighter, but it stays fairly mild, so temperatures, I think, remaining in double figures for most of us. Into our Saturday then, well, I think the further east you are, you do tend to find more cloud around, and we could see a few showers being generated as well. come further west and you tend to find a bit more in the way of some sunshine coming through. Again, it's on the mild side, so 13 degrees or so, but those temperatures a little bit lower than we've seen for today. Taking a look at our times of high water, we've got Dover there at 5:58 and again at 7:06 as we head into the evening. And finally, the outlook. Well, high pressure, as I say, is dominating. I think on Sunday, well, again, you could see an odd shower or two, but equally, hopefully, some brightness to be had. Mist and fog could well become an issue, I think, on Saturday night and again on Sunday night. And of course, with that forms, it may take a while to clear into the mornings, again into next week as well. That could be a factor. Often perhaps quite cloudy to start next week, and you'll notice those temperatures tend to fall away as well. So just feeling a little bit more typical for the time of year.
And in just a moment, the ITV Evening News Hour continues here with Mary Nightingale.
Stacey Paul's got out at news just after 10:30, and of course bulletins right throughout the weekend. But for now, from the team here at ITV Meridian, thanks for watching. Enjoy your weekend. Take care.
Happy weekend. Bye-bye.
Yes, bye-bye.